The encounter the night was cold and quiet. James sat near his small campfire. Deep in the forest where he lived alone, the world had changed since the alien contact years ago. Cities were different now. Technology was faster, and many people had moved to off-world colonies. But James chose to stay on Earth, far from everyone, living a peaceful life with no trouble. As he took a sip of hot tea, he heard something very soft. Like a footstep, he turned quickly, looking into the dark trees, but saw nothing. Probably an animal, he whispered to himself, trying to stay calm. But the sound came again, closer this time. Slow, careful steps. James stood up and picked up his flashlight. He walked toward the noise, shining the light between the trees. That's when he saw her, a small figure, thin, shaking, hiding behind a bush. He stepped closer and saw the truth. It wasn't a human girl. She had pale silver skin, big black eyes, and long white hair. Her clothes were torn, her hands dirty, and she looked scared. She was an alien child. James froze, unsure what to do. The girl looked at him with wide eyes, her arms wrapped around her knees. She looked hungry, tired, and maybe hurt. He slowly lowered his flashlight, showing he meant no harm. "Hey," he said softly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." She didn't respond. Just stared at him, her breathing fast. James looked around. No ships, no lights, no one else. Was she alone? "What are you doing here?" he asked, knowing she probably didn't understand. She looked at his backpack, then at his cup of tea. Then back at him. James realized she was looking for food. He slowly reached into his bag and took out a protein bar. He placed it on the ground and stepped back. The girl didn't move for a moment, then slowly crawled forward, picked up the bar, and began eating quickly. She ate like she hadn't had food in days. James watched silently, confused but also feeling sorry for her. She finished the bar and looked at him again, this time with a little less fear. "Are you hurt?" he asked, still calm. She didn't answer, but her body relaxed a little. He pointed at the campfire and sat down again, showing her it was safe. To his surprise, she slowly walked over and sat across from him, just close enough to feel the heat. They sat in silence, the fire crackling between them. James tried not to stare, but he couldn't stop wondering. Where did she come from? Why was she alone? Was someone looking for her? The girl looked up at the stars, then back at the trees, like she was listening for something. James followed her gaze, but saw nothing. After some time, her eyes began to close, her body swaying with sleep. James stood and opened his small wooden shed nearby. He laid out a blanket on the floor, then gently pointed her inside. The girl stood slowly and walked in, curling up on the blanket without a word. He left the door half open so she wouldn't feel trapped. That night, James couldn't sleep. He sat near the fire, watching the woods, listening to every sound. He didn't know if she was dangerous or if someone dangerous was looking for her. All he knew was he had helped her, and somehow that felt right. In the morning, he went to check on her. The blanket was still there, but she was gone. No footprints, no signs, no note, nothing. It was like she had vanished. James stood there, confused and a little disappointed. Had he imagined the whole thing? Was she real? He looked around again, but the forest was silent. Later that day, while chopping wood, he saw something strange. Footprints near his garden knot, small ones like hers. These were bigger, deeper, and not human. He followed them for a few steps, then stopped. They circled his house, then disappeared into the woods. James felt a chill. Someone or something had been here after she left. He looked at the sky, remembering her face, her fear, her silence. Something was coming. He could feel it. And this was just the beginning. *3. Days passed. James couldn't stop thinking about the little alien girl. He often stared at the trees, hoping to see her again. But there was no sign of her, not even a sound. The big footprints had vanished with the rain. But the feeling of being watched never left him. He tried to go back to his normal routine, chopping wood, checking his solar panels, hunting for food. But something inside had changed. He missed the silence they shared around the fire, even though she said nothing that night, just as the sun began to fall behind the trees. James felt it, a strange vibration in the ground, soft but steady, like distant footsteps. He turned toward the sound, his heart beating faster from between the trees. Shadows moved to figures walking slowly into the open. One was small, the girl, her white hair now cleaner, her face calmer, but next to her was someone taller, stronger, and far more dangerous looking. A tall female alien. Her skin silver like the girl's, but darker. With long limbs and glowing green eyes, she wore strange armor that shimmered in the fading light. And her expression was serious. The girl pointed at James with a tiny smile. He stood still, unsure whether to run or speak. The taller alien raised a small device near her throat. And when she spoke, her voice came out clear and mechanical through it. "You gave my daughter food," she said. Her voice deep and smooth. James nodded slowly. Yes. She was hungry and alone. The tall alien tilted her head, examining him like a puzzle. "She said you were kind," the alien continued. "That is rare. I just helped," James said carefully. Not knowing what else to say, the girl stepped closer and gently held his hand, surprising him. Her small fingers were warm. And she looked up at him with trust. "My name is Solari," the mother said. "We need shelter just for a short time." James glanced between them, unsure. "You're not here to hurt me?" he asked, his voice low. Solari's eyes narrowed. "If we wanted that, your fire would already be cold." James gave a small nod, then stepped aside. "You can stay for tonight." Inside the shed, James made space again. Laying down extra blankets and offering water, the girl drank slowly. While Solari sat quietly near the wall, eyes never resting, always watching, James sat across from her. The campfire glowing outside through the open door. "Are you running from someone?" he asked finally. Breaking the silence, Solari didn't answer right away. She looked at her daughter, then back at James, her voice calm but serious. "There are many who would pay to capture us. Why?" James asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "My daughter is important," Solari said. "To them, she is a key." James frowned. "A key to what?" Solari didn't answer. Instead, she lifted her sleeve, revealing a mark on her arm. It looked burned into the skin, a circle with sharp edges, glowing faint red. James had seen something like it once. Years ago, during the last wave of alien ships. "That's a bounty tag," he said, his mouth suddenly dry. Solari nodded. "We escaped a war. And now others chase us. Then why come back here?" James asked, confused. Solari looked at her daughter, who had now fallen asleep. Curled up beside the fire, she said she felt safe here. James didn't know what to say to that. He looked at the small alien child, remembering the first night. He saw hers, cared, starving, but still kind, outside. A soft noise broke the silence, a buzz like something mechanical hovering in the distance. Solari stood instantly, eyes sharp. James grabbed his flashlight and ran outside. Looking up, a small black drone hovered above the trees, scanning in slow circles. "Is it looking for you?" he asked. "Yes," Solari said, walking beside him. "But this one is a scout." James frowned, meaning, "Others will follow," she said, without warning. The drone blinked red and exploded mid-air, a flash of light and smoke filling the sky. Solari grabbed her daughter and pulled her inside. James followed, heart racing, Was that self-destruct? He asked, breathing hard. Yes, she said. It scanned us, and now it's calling more. James sat down, staring at the wall. He had lived in peace for years. No noise, no people, no war. Now, in just a few days, everything had changed. He looked at the girl, sleeping without fear, and then at her mother, who stood guard like a soldier. They had brought danger with them, but they had also brought something else. Something he hadn't felt in years, purpose, and he wasn't ready to let go yet. The next morning was too quiet. Even the birds weren't singing. James woke early, his senses alert. The drone explosion from last night still echoed in his mind. He stepped outside, eyes scanning the trees. The sky, the ground, nothing moved, but the air felt heavy like a storm was waiting nearby. Inside the shed, Solari stood motionless near the door, her eyes sharp. The little girl, now rested, sat cross-legged and played with a broken compass James had given her. She smiled gently, twisting it in her hands, unaware of the danger closing. James knew he had to prepare. I have an old storm bunker under the garden, he said to Solari, built it back when Earth was still worried about alien raids. Show me, she replied, without hesitation. Together they cleared the brush covering the metal hatch, hidden under a pile of logs. It creaked as it opened, the smell of dust and rust rising from below. The stairs led to a small underground room, concrete walls, 2 emergency lights, old supplies, and a backup generator. It's not much, James said. But it's safe, Solari nodded. This will work. For now, back on the surface. James powered up an old signal blocker from his attic. He hadn't used it in years. But if it still worked, it might confuse enemy drones for a while. He placed it on the roof, aimed it upward, and flipped the switch. The device buzzed to life, sending out a pulsing hum. Not perfect, he said, but maybe it buys us time. Later that evening, as the sky turned purple, a strange noise cut through the air. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp, unnatural, cold. Solari rushed outside with her plasma blade drawn, her armor activating with a low hum. James followed, holding a hunting rifle useless against StarTech, but it made him feel less helpless. Above the tree line, a sleek black craft hovered in the air, silent and still. Then it began to descend, slowly. As if testing the ground. They found us, Solari said calmly. One ship, small, scouting again. James asked. No, she said, her eyes glowing faintly green. This one carries hunters. The girl peeked out from behind the doorway, her small hand gripping the compass tightly. James looked at her, then at Solari. We hide now, he asked. Solari shook her head. We stall. She handed James a small device, round and silver. Activate this only if they reach the house, she said. It triggers a short EMP blast. Won't that kill the signal blocker too? He asked. Yes, she replied, so only when necessary. The craft landed just beyond the trees, hidden mostly from sight. But footsteps came slow, steady, heavy, walking toward them like they already knew where to go. James crouched behind a rock wall, heart racing, rifle shaking in his hands. 3 figures appeared, tall and armored, head to toe. They moved like machines, but their body language was too precise, too intelligent. One of them raised a scanning device, pointing it toward the shed. A sharp beep echoed. They had locked onto the girl's energy signature. Before James could act, Solari leapt from her position with silent speed, her plasma blade slicing through the air. She struck first, disabling one of the hunters before they even raised their weapons. The second one fired, a beam of red light barely missing her. James rolled from cover and fired his rifle. The bullet bouncing harmlessly off metal armor. He cursed, ducking again as the third hunter shot toward him. Solari fought with skill, dodging every move, blocking with armor, striking with precision. But even she couldn't hold them off forever. James pulled. The EMP trigger, the device in his hand glowing bright white for a moment, then releasing a pulse. A loud pop filled the air as circuits fried and energy flickered. All the hunters dropped instantly, motionless. Even the signal blocker on the roof fizzled and died. Solari dropped to one knee, panting, our blades still humming faintly. James ran. To her side, helping her up, they were strong. She whispered, too strong for scouts. They knew she was here, James said. Eyes wide, they're not just tracking, they're coming for her. Solari looked at her daughter, who now stood silently near the doorway. Her glowing eyes wide with fear. She is waking up, Solari said, and they feel it. James helped drag the metal bodies into the woods, covering them with brush. When he returned, the girl was sitting near the fire, drawing shapes in the dirt, circles, stars. And a large spiral. She dreams of places she has never seen, Solari whispered, watching her. She remembers things I do not, James looked at. The sky where the stars began to shine. If one ship found us, more will follow. He said. Solari nodded. We must move soon, but where? He asked. She didn't answer, because in that moment, far beyond the trees, a second ship appeared in the sky, larger, darker, silent as death. It hovered without lights. It shaped like a shadow crawling over the stars, and it was heading straight. For them, the night air felt heavier than before. James stood outside the shed, staring at the second ship in the sky. It didn't flash lights or make sound, but its presence pressed against the trees like a rising tide. Solari stood beside him, eyes glowing brighter than ever. Her armor now locked and ready for combat. Her daughter sat quietly on the bunker steps, her small fingers still playing with the broken compass, but her face was different, now less like a child, more like something waking up from a long dream. She remembers, Solari whispered, without taking her eyes off the ship. James looked at her, confused. Remembers what? Solari didn't answer right away. Instead, she knelt beside her daughter. Placing a hand over the girl's forehead, the girl blinked slowly, then closed her eyes. A faint light shimmered from her chest. Like a pulse beneath the skin, Solari looked back at James, her voice calm but heavy. She's not just my daughter, she said. She's a carrier. James frowned. Of what? Solari stood, staring into the dark trees, her voice low, a code written by ancient minds. She said, locked inside her DNA signal, meant to restore balance to the stars. James blinked, confused but curious. That's why they're hunting her. Solari nodded. The Empire fears what she carries. James leaned against the shed wall, running a hand through his hair. All this time, I thought I was just helping a lost child, he said. But she's a message, not a message. Solari said softly, a spark inside the shed. The girl suddenly stood up and walked to James. She looked up at him and held out the compass. It glowed faintly in her hands, even though it was broken. I saw this in my dream, she said, speaking English for the first time, her voice soft and clear. James froze, surprised. You? You can talk. The girl nodded. Now I remember. How Solari stepped forward, watching her daughter with both awe and worry. Her mind is unlocking, she said, piece by piece. But why now? James asked, still amazed. Solari looked at the sky, because they're close. James heard it again, the hum of engines above, the low growl of energy pulsing through the clouds. The second ship had fully arrived, hovering silently behind the tree line. Then a voice echoed from the ship, mechanical, cold, and full of command. Surrender the carrier. It said, you have 1 hour. Solari's body tensed, her armor shifting with a hiss. We cannot fight them, she said. Not here. We can't run either, James said. They'll just follow. Solari turned to him, her eyes. Fierce, there may be one way. She reached into a hidden pouch in her armor and pulled out a crystal-shaped device. It glowed bright blue and pulsed like a heartbeat. "This is a key," she said. "One that can open a gate too." "Where?" James asked. "To the old zones," Solari replied. "Hidden places where the Empire cannot reach. But it needs energy to work," she added. "A massive surge." "More than I have," James thought quickly. "What if we use my old fusion core?" Solari blinked, surprised. "You have one?" "In the workshop," he said. "Been dead for years, but maybe we can jumpstart it." They rushed inside, the girl close behind, her eyes glowing, now not just faint light, but deep symbols dancing. Across her irises, the workshop was dusty, filled with old parts. And in the center sat the rusted fusion core, silent and cold. Solari placed the gate key beside it and began working fast. Wires flying, sparks jumping, James helped where he could. Handing tools, adjusting settings, praying it would hold. Then, the girl stepped forward. Placing her hand on the fusion core, a pulse of blue light surged through the room. Blinding for a moment, the core roared to life. Humming with power it hadn't felt in years, Solari stared in disbelief. "She charged it." James looked at the girl. "How did you do that?" The girl smiled faintly. "I just remembered who I am." Solari activated the gate key, and a swirling portal opened beside the workbenchy glowing tunnel of light and sound. James stared at it, breath caught in his throat, but before anyone could move, a beam shot through the wall, missing them by inches. The Empire soldiers had arrived. 3 figures in black armor stepped through the broken door. Weapons charged, Solari stepped between them and her daughter. Blade raised, James raised his rifle again. Knowing it wouldn't help, but raising it anyway, the girl stepped forward, past her mother, past James, and raised both hands. Light burst from her palms, hitting the soldiers like a wave of gravity. They were thrown back into the trees, their armor sparking for a moment. Everything went still. James stared at the girl, no longer just a lost child, but something far greater. Solari whispered, "She has awakened." The portal pulsed behind them. Waiting, they had to decide, run now, or fight what was coming next. And the next wave was already in the sky. Smoke floated through the workshop. The broken wall crackled with sparks. The air smelled of burnt metal. James kept his eyes on the trees, expecting the next wave of soldiers any second. The girl stood between him and Solari, her glowing hands. Now dim, her energy spent, the portal still shimmered behind them, a door to safety. But also to the unknown. James swallowed hard, heart racing. "We have to go." Solari didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the forest, listening to something James couldn't hear. Then she shook her head, her voice like ice, their surrounding. "U.S." James stepped forward, "So we run." Solari looked at her daughter, who now sat on the dusty floor, eyes half closed, exhausted. "She can't make the jump right now," Solari said. "The gate would tear her apart." James felt a chill crawl up his neck. "Then we hide," he said, "or we fight." Solari's blade lit again, casting a blue glow across the room. "There is no hiding," she said. "Not from what comes next." James stared at her, then looked down at his shaking hands. "I have no powers," he said. "No alien blade, no armor." Solari turned to him, her voice quieter. "You have something better," she said. "You chose to protect her without knowing why." James didn't respond, but he felt her words settle deep inside him. Outside, the sky rumbled not thunder, but engines. 3 new ships appeared above the forest. Their black bodies, shaped like wings, spread for attack. They hovered low, scanning, silent, deadly. James ran to the shed and grabbed everything useful: flares, metal pipes, flash bombs, even an old mining charge. "Do you have traps?" Solari asked, following him, Not alien grade, he said, but I can make noise. He planted the mining charge near the side path, loaded a flare gun, and placed small distractions along the trail. Solari positioned herself near the front, guarding the portal and her daughter. Then the forest exploded with motion. Black-armored soldiers sprinted through the tree stand of them this time. Their movements were fast, coordinated, practiced. James fired the flare high into the sky, blinding them for seconds. Then the mining charge exploded, sending smoke, dirt, and 2 soldiers flying. He ducked back and ran toward the second trappa. Loose log tied high in the trees. With a yank, it fell. Knocking another 2 attackers down, Solari moved like lightning, her blades slicing in clean. Controlled arcs, but they kept coming. Wave after wave, James grabbed a heavy wrench and struck. One from behind his arms shaking with the impact. He wasn't a soldier, but he had something else: desperation. The girl opened her eyes and raised her hand again. Not with power this time, but with focus. The ground beneath the attackers trembled. The trees shimmered like waves of heat. Then, as if the forest itself responded to her, the trees closed in, branches wrapping around the soldiers. Holding them still, James stared in shock. Is she doing that? Solari nodded, breathing hard. She's sinking with the land. The enemy ships above began charging weapons, glowing red from below. They're going to blast the house. James shouted. Solari turned to him. Get her into the gate. But... You said she's ready now, Solari interrupted. Her power is protecting her. James ran to the girl and picked her up gently, her small body warm with energy. She looked at him, barely awake, and whispered, "You're not like them." He smiled. "Neither are you." As he stepped toward the gate, a beam of red light fired from the ship, heading straight for them. Solari turned, raised both hands, and screamed. A shield formed from her armor, absorbing the blast, but she staggered and dropped to one knee. "Go!" she cried out. "Take her through, James." Didn't look back. He stepped into the portal, the light swallowing him whole. Behind him, the gate pulsed again, waiting for one more traveler. But before Solari could move, one final enemy soldier appeared. Blade raised, she turned, wounded but not weak, and faced him with fire in her eyes. Inside the portal, James landed hard on the other side. The world around him was strange sky purple, ground glowing with soft light. He looked down at the girl, who now opened her eyes fully and smiled. "We made it," she said. James turned to look behind them just as the portal closed. Solari hadn't come through. His heart sank. He didn't know if she had survived or if she had chosen to stay behind. But he knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. The girl was safe for now, but the Empire wouldn't stop. And neither would he. The sky on this new world looked like it had never seen war. Purple clouds drifted across silver skies, glowing softly. Strange trees with blue leaves swayed without wind. The ground felt warm under James's boots, pulsing with life like a heartbeat. The girl walked beside him, quiet and calm. Her eyes now sparkled with symbols that changed and shifted every second. But something was wrong. James kept looking behind him even though the portal was gone. He felt a pressure in the air, a warning without words. Solari hadn't made it through, and that haunted him still. He had to protect the girl now. He had made that choice when he gave her food, and he wasn't about to stop now. "Where are we?" James asked, his voice low. The girl tilted her head. "A forgotten place. Is it safe?" He asked. "For now," she whispered, "but they are searching the old gates." James sighed. "Then we keep moving." They crossed crystal fields, glowing ponds, and floating rocks that hummed like music. Everything here felt alive, watching after hours of walking. They reached a small structure built into the side of a glowing hill. It looked abandoned, overgrown, cracked, and half covered in vines. Inside, it was dark but dry, with soft light leaking through the walls. This was a rebel outpost, the girl said. Running her fingers along ancient markings on the wall, James raised an eyebrow. You remember? This place? She nodded slowly. Parts of me do. James lit a small fire and sat down. Exhausted, he had survived the forest, the Empire soldiers, and the portal jump. But something inside him felt unfinished. Do you think your mother's alive? He asked softly. The girl didn't answer. She simply placed her hand over her heart and closed her eyes. That night, James slept with one eye open. In the morning, the sky changed again, now streaked with orange and black. The girl woke suddenly. Her eyes wide, her breath fast. They found us, she said, standing quickly. James grabbed his bag and looked outside. In the distance, far beyond the hills, a shadow moved across the sky. A black ship, silent and smooth, was gliding toward them. Not fast, but steady. It was hunting. James pulled the girl close. We run now. They left the shelter and moved through the crystal fields. The ground vibrated with each passing minute. The ship getting closer. They reached a narrow canyon where blue vines hung like curtains. We go through there, James said, pointing. The girl nodded, but her steps were slower now. Her power had weakened since the portal jump, and James could see it in her eyes. They made it halfway through the canyon when a beam of red light struck a nearby rock wall. It exploded, sending shards flying. James covered the girl with his body as stone rained down. A loud screech followed. The enemy ship was above them now. Then a new sound filled the air, a whistle sharp and fast, followed by a flash of blue light. Something hit the ship from behind, knocking it sideways. Another ship had arrived. This one older, worn, painted with rebel symbols. James watched in disbelief as the two crafts fought in the sky above them. The rebel ship moved like it had purpose, dodging lasers, firing energy blasts with precision. The enemy vessel, newer and faster, still struggled to keep up. Then, a voice crackled through a communicator in James's bag. Human, do you hear me? James grabbed the device, shocked. Who is this? Friend of Solari, the voice said. She sent us before the portal closed. She's alive. James asked, heart racing. For now, the voice answered. But we don't have long. Bring the carrier to the beacon. What beacon? James asked, looking around. Then the girl pointed to the sky. A blue pillar of light had appeared on the horizon, rising from a distant mountain. That's the gate home, she said, her voice trembling. James grabbed her hand and started running. The ground shook as more blasts lit up the sky. Trees burned, rocks shattered, and the chase began again. But this time, they weren't alone. The rebel ship covered them. From above, moving in loops, drawing fire, the girl stumbled once, but James lifted her into his arms without a word. He could feel her heartbeat, fast but steady. She was scared, but she trusted him. As they climbed a ridge, James looked back one last time. The Empire ship was damaged but still flying. The fight wasn't over. Not yet, but hope had returned, and that meant everything. The mountain rose like a blade from the land, its peak hidden in silver clouds, glowing faintly with the same blue light as the beacon. James climbed fast, breath sharp, arms burning. The girl held tight against his chest. Behind them, the enemy ship crawled through the sky like a wounded predator. Its left wing sparkled with damage, but it wasn't slowing down. It wanted the girl. No matter the cost, above them, the rebel ship circled like a guardian hawk, launching flares and firing in bursts, but it was running out of fuel and time. James reached the summit just as the beacon pulsed again. A circular stone platform stood in the center, ancient and cracked, with strange alien runes glowing softly. The girl stepped forward, her hands trembling. This is where it began. She whispered, "This is where I was meant to wake." James looked around, confused. "What do you mean?" She placed both hands on the center of the platform. The light grew stronger, swirling around her like mist. "My mind was locked," she said, "to protect what I carry." James watched as her feet lifted gently off the ground, her body floating, her eyes glowing like stars. Suddenly, the communicator on James's belt sparked to life. Solari's voice came through weak, broken, but alive. "James," she said, "you must protect her until the transfer completes." "I thought you were no time," she interrupted. "They sent a prime hunter." James turned toward the sky and saw it, a new ship, different from the rest, descending silently above them, sleek, dark. Shaped like a blade with glowing red veins, it hovered with terrifying calm. Then landed with a hiss, the side hatch opened, and the prime hunter stepped out. It stood taller than any soldier before, its armor black like shadow, its face hidden by a smooth helmet. In one hand, it held a weapon shaped like a living spear. In the other, a shield that pulsed like a heart. James raised his rifle not because he thought it would work, but because he had nothing else. The prime hunter walked forward, each step causing the ground to tremble. "Stand aside, human," it said, its voice like thunder inside metal. "The carrier belongs to the Empire. She belongs to no one." James growled, standing his ground. The girl behind him continued to float, her body surrounded by a spiral of symbols and starlight. The prime hunter moved fast, faster than James could react. In one breath, it was in front of him, swinging the spear, but something blocked the blow. A flash of blue light struck the spear away. Solari appeared from the shadows behind the rocks. Armor cracked, limping, but alive. "You followed us, James." Breathed, amazed. "I never left her," Solari said, stepping between the hunter and her daughter. The prime hunter attacked again, but this time Solari met it head-on. Their blades clashed. Metal screamed, sparks flew like lightning. James dragged the girl away from the edge, shielding her body with his own. The ritual, whatever it was, continued. The air now vibrating with strange music. Symbols rose into the sky like glowing birds. The prime hunter roared, landing a strike that knocked Solari to her knees. James picked up a flare and charged, smashing it into the hunter's side. The flash blinded it for a moment, just long enough for Solari to drive her blade into a gap in its armor. The prime hunter screamed not with pain, but fury. It grabbed Solari and threw her across the platform. James rushed to her side, but she waved him off. "Protect her," she whispered, blood running from her mouth. "She's almost ready." The hunter turned toward the girl, now surrounded in a pillar of light. But before it could reach her, the platform cracked open. From beneath, ancient machines awoke, long arms of light and energy rising like guardians. The girl opened her eyes fully, now shining brighter than any star. She raised her hand, and the machines responded, firing beams of pure force into the sky. The prime hunter was lifted into the air. Trapped in a cage of light, the spear and shield fell from its hands as its body shook violently. Then, with a sound like thunder being torn apart, it vanished, gone. The platform went silent. The girl floated back down to the stone floor, her glow fading gently. James rushed to her, holding her tightly. Solari limped over, tears in her eyes. "It's done," the girl whispered. "I remembered everything. What now?" James asked, breathless. The girl looked at them both, calm and certain. "Now I send the signal," she said, "and others like me will wake." Solari smiled weakly. "The Empire will fall." James looked at the sky, where the clouds were clearing. For the first time in years, he saw stars. Not just light in the sky, but hope, and he knew, deep down, that feeding one hungry alien girl had changed the future of the galaxy forever.